Of various forms of media, there's been villains over the years that they just catch my attention more often so than the actual hero of that story does. Voss, Mahito, Joker, Meruem, just to name a few, and for some reason or other, these motherfuckers are all on some demon time shit, and I was always just left craving more and more of their presence. Now we have Sojo, Shonen's latest fucking crackpot crazy motherfucker, and he just gives me a vibe of just utter batshit crazy, and I really fuck with it. And I just know Takeru is cooking something fucking phenomenal with him and his character and the arc that he's on with Chihiro right now. But Takeru does go a little bit more deeper on Sojo and his character in this chapter of Kagurabachi. But before we get into that, I need you all to make sure that you are liking and subscribing to this channel, because we're trying to hit 30k before this year ends, and I hear subscribing to this channel contributes to a massive PP energy buff. To figure that out. But this chapter opens up with the Kamunabi, who was introduced to us in the last chapter, waiting to find out Sojo's whereabouts, because apparently even after having a battle in the middle of the city, this dude really isn't hiding, is instead just having a bath. We'll get to that. We'll touch on that little note in a second, but we see Chihiro and Shiba having a bit of a moment, with Shiba asking him how he is, and Chihiro mentioning how his arm hurts, but he can still move, and then mentioning how his left arm was already bad, which does make me wonder if he already had a pre-existing injury, especially since we don't know the backstory on the scar on his face, and that injury may travel deeper down that side of his face, even more so than we already knew. But Shiba mentions how surprisingly mature he has gotten given the situation, and he's choosing to remain calm and rational, even though he's faced with overwhelming hatred, and rather than acting on that, he's actually being patient, which I somewhat kind of enjoy, especially considering Chihiro was, his first interpretation to us was that Chihiro was someone who's just deeply invested in their hatred. He had that line on the train about waking up to remind himself of a fresh hatred every day, which is kind of cold, but also kind of edgelord type vibes. You get what I'm saying? We also get this visual reveal of where Shaw is being kept, and it seems to be in some sort of castle, which reminded me a lot of Musashi vs. the Yagyu for some really strange reason. Just when I looked upon it, I was like, oh, that reminds me of this. I don't know why. I'm not sure. I need to reread Vagabond at some point. But we don't spend that much time on this, because we do cut over to Sojo, who is currently just vibing in what I'm assuming is a public bathhouse, and I'm not entirely sure, but Sojo definitely does seem like the type to just be a bracing motherfucker to do this, battle in the middle of public, have the government authorities look for you, and just vibe in a public bathhouse. He seems like that kind of menace to do that. But we see Sojo thinking about Chihiro and how he is Rokuhiro's son, which is a surprise to Sojo, who has apparently just researched absolutely everything there is to know about Rokuhiro and has found nothing on him having a son. So it turns out Chihiro was completely and utterly secretly kept away from the world here. Well, I'm not sure if Sojo is theorizing about something else here, or if he's just curious on the possibilities of Chihiro being actually the son of Rokuhiro. I remember I had that theory a couple days ago that there's potential that these two could be related. I'm not sure, because they look very, very similar, and there's just parallels there. It's a theory that I'm cooking up in the background, but I need more evidence to support it. Well, this kind of debunks it a little bit, but who knows? We'll see. There's a lot of mystery being surrounded around Sojo right now. But anyway, these nameless goons rock up on Sojo to deliver a piece of what looks like the Daten Sekai back to him. And I have to go on to say how their sorcerer who used it ended up exploding the same way Sojo said that they would in the previous chapters. But it sounds as if Sojo is going around handing out the Daten Sekai to random thug groups who use it in hopes of starting maybe gang wars and seeing if one of them figures out how to handle the power, which is just apparently not the fucking case right here. But these dudes try and rush Sojo, and it seems Sojo just doesn't even get out the bath. He apparently annihilates these dudes, so we don't even get to see him doing this. Bro hits these guys with the Sukuna off-screen no jutsu right here. He is just obliterating these guys easily. And then Sojo goes on about his day thinking about how the Daten Sekai, while bathing in a pool of his enemy's fucking blood, he goes on to think about how the Daten Sekai, everyone seems to be struggling to control it, which it goes back to saying, it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, that with him being one of the coldest fucking villains that I've seen in Shonen for a fucking hot minute. But Sojo then goes on to think about how he needs to fight Chihiro again, and he needs to show him something, but we're not sure what that is. He also decides that he needs to understand the enchanted blades even more, and because of his last fight with Chihiro, he already did serious damage to Chihiro. He nearly fucked this dude up, and he had 1 week of experience. But this is where we are shown the Kamunabi arriving outside of the bathhouse that Shoto is just vibing in, and he is hitting us with a little bit of a monologue going on to say, phantoms, the reason the Japanese people were barely aware of sorcerers before the Imperial War is because of the unwritten rule that sorcerers don't interfere with the outside world. This kind of reminds me a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen because it's kind of the similar thing. Jujutsu sorcerers aren't supposed to involve themselves with the real life world. They don't really want to make the existence of chaos spirits and Jujutsu sorcery available to public knowledge, which is why the Shibuya incident was such a prominent event. But since their activities were exposed during the war, a lot of sorcerers have operated out in the open, and the only reason this country hasn't fallen apart was because you guys control it, which is where we see Sojo standing face to face with the Kamunabi like one cold motherfucker. Like, seriously, this dude is straight up fucking demonic. Like, this chapter and these past couple of chapters have set up the Kamunabi to be basically the Ambu Block Ops, the fucking Spec Ops, the Marine Corps of this world so far, from my understanding of it at least. And to see Sojo just standing here nonchalantly against these dudes, it's incredibly scary to see. It reminds me a lot of the Phantom Troop versus the Shadow Beasts. Like, seriously, Takeru he's cooking up something seriously demonic. Like, there's a demonic presence in Sojo. We're only 12 chapters deep, and I really fuck with his character. But we are officially introduced to the first member of the Kamunabi, which is Ikoto Hagiwara. I hope I've just butchered that name, probably have, but he is mildly concerned at how cold, calm, and collected Sojo actually is about this fight, which for me is a major death flag. Again, it reminds me a lot of the Shadow Beasts versus the Phantom Troop here, or should I say Uvagan. But Sojo, in his first fight with a week of experience, by the way, was ready to scrap with these dudes. The only reason that stopped him was because of Asumi and Shiba. But now he's even more so ready. He's been bathed. He's ready to go. He's fresh, and he's already had a serious fight with Chihiro with more experience for the Enchanted Blade and Cloud Gouger, which, by the way, is a fucking sick name for a katana. Which, speaking of which, he starts to activate Cloud Gouger for this fight, and honestly, the effects that happen for Cloud Gouger, phenomenal. But this is where we switch back over to Chihiro, who has infiltrated the castle where Char is being held, and he is moving like fucking Batman right now. Bro has been sitting and standing and watching patiently in the shadows. I also just want to point out that he is holding his sword in his right hand and his left isn't used, so I do wonder if that's going to be a problem later on down the line. But he ends up straight up butchering these goons, and we see him sat face to face with this last guy on the table who is straight up panicking, asking him what he wants. Like, serious Batman vibes from Chihiro here. But once again, Takeru is cooking. Kagurabachi, the series is phenomenal so far. It's got 12 chapters, and I hope the videos push the series out to more and more people. Seriously, if you haven't read Kagurabachi, go fucking read it. It's not a meme anymore. It's actually a decent series. Give it a shot. It's got 12 chapters. Get in early, invest in some stocks, because I've got a feeling that this series is going to be the next big juice and Magusa for Shonen, especially with the way Takeru is writing this villain. A good villain can really fucking carry a series to new heights. I think that's one of the reasons Jujutsu Kaisen has been so successful, because of the way the villains are written. But that's everything from me. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Much love. Big fucking kisses. Peace.